Health Research and Innovation. Kindly mute your microphones and turn off the camera during the presentation and use the chat box to clear your doubts. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Radha Jayatunga, consultant hematologist. She has a wide experience as a consultant for the last 10 years working in many parts of the country, currently attached to the teaching hospital, Kurunagala. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee of GMOA for providing this opportunity to present a lecture today. So, good morning, dear colleagues and dear members. Shall we move to the topic today? It's practical approach to a patient with anemia. So my lecture consists of two parts. First on interpretation of full blood count, and there I will be highlighting the important points of full blood count report. And second, on case presentations on anemias, but not only anemias, I'll be discussing and showing many other hematological conditions to you. So expectation of this lecture, at the end of the lecture, so that you can come to a differential diagnosis or a diagnosis by just looking at your full blood count report. So here I would not be covering up theory part of hematology, but I will give you most important tips so that I know they are very useful in your clinical management. So full blood count, it's a machine generated report. So we are basically talking about automation. So when we talk about automation, we just cannot forget the history. Only one sentence about the history. So the modern hematology Coulter analyzer was found by Wallace Coulter in early 90s. So in automation, there are advantages as well as disadvantages. Advantages, accuracy, precision, and very quick report that you get from the machine. Disadvantages, the most commonest disadvantage is the commonest error of sampling error, which cannot be found by the machine. And the second one, this is the modern machine that we are using. When you see the inside, it's like our own vehicle. There can be failures, breaks, dips, and breakdowns. So from time to time, you have to attend at a cost. So government is spending a lot of money on your automation. Okay, this is the full blood count report. You are familiar with the report. Almost all you have seen this report. You have the normal reference ranges given in your report, but you have to know our reference ranges and the physiological variations when you are interpreting full blood count report. So there are about 25 to 35 parameters in the full blood count report, but unfortunately we are looking at only very few parameters. So I will highlight the parameters which are important in our clinical management. As you know, we have to have some idea about hemoglobin, Paxil volume or the hematocrit, mean corpuscular volume, mean corpuscular hemoglobin, MCHC, which are RBC indices, and red cell distribution width. And moving to the platelets, normal ranges, and the platelet volume, you have to have some idea. And the WBC count, normal differentials. So I start from basic thing. WBC. Can you see there are two reports here on the right and left hand side? In this report, which I have highlighted, you can see 5 parameters: neutrophil, lymphocyte, monocyte, basophils, and eosinophils. On this side, this report, you have only 3 parameters: lymphocyte, mid count, and a granulocyte. So this report is generated from 5-part hematology analyzer, and this report from a 3-part hematology analyzer. So what is this 3-part, 5-part? And because of the technology, now the machine can identify 3-part, 5-part, and even 7-part cell types in your body. So this is if I describe more in detail, 3-part includes lymphocyte, mid count, and neutrophil. 5-part includes lymphocyte and a differentiation of these mid cells and a neutrophils. I wanted to highlight this because still you see this type of 3-part hematology analyzer reports in our country. So normal count or normal reference ranges vary from 4,500 to 11,000. And you know, in adult, majority neutrophils, then lymphocyte, followed by monocyte, eosinophils, and basophils. This is the percentage wise, but when you should have idea about the absolute count, because we diagnose diseases not by the percentages, but by the absolute counts. So there are variation. The previous slide I showed in adult patient, but there are variations, physiological variation. In pediatric age group, the predominant cell type is lymphocyte from the age of day 7 to 7 years of age. Sometimes this can go up to 10 to 11 or 12 years. So, and again, this lymphocyte can go up to 14,000 even in a normal child. So that is a normal variation. But in adult, if you see a lymphocyte count of more than 4,000, it is always a pathological. There is a reason, either a viral infection or starting from viral infection, it can go up to chronic lymphoproliferative disease. So I hope you can see this full blood count report. This is, I try to put our own reports, maybe not very attractive, but this is a 1-month-old baby from MBU. You see WBC 12,000. I'm talking about the absolute counts. 12,000, this is the normal ranges. Neutrophil 2,930, lymphocyte 8,390. So this is, you can see the predominant cell type is lymphocyte, and this is normal for that age, but abnormal if you see this in an adult person. Okay, we move to the RBC and hemoglobin. You have to have some idea about RBC count and hemoglobin. In your report, you have very wide range of RBC count and hemoglobin normal values. So in hemoglobin, normal values, it is 13 to 18 and 11.5 to 6.5 for females. But what is the definition of anemia? Anemia is defined as reduction of hemoglobin concentration below the normal range. So what is normal level of hemoglobin? That varies with the age, sex, ethnicity, and the physiological status. So keeping that in mind, what is the WHO definition? Hemoglobin is less than 12 grams for women and 13 grams for men considered as anemia. But in our country, we take 11.5 for women and 12 for men in our country. So that we have to strict our values. And in pregnancy, this hemoglobin level further goes down, and 11 grams per deciliter is the cutoff value. But Keep in mind, in the last trimester, sometimes we go down up to 10.5 grams per deciliter. And children below 11, 12 years, it's 11.5, but there are a whole lot of variation according to the age group. And there's another common physiological variation. Infants up to the age of 1 month of you get very high level of hemoglobin. This is a report from a day 25 baby. Can you see WBC absolute count 10,340, neutrophil 3,000, lymphocyte 5, close to 5,000, which is normal for that age. And moving to the RBC 5.83, which is high, hemoglobin 19, which is high, but that is normal for that age group. Okay, red cell indices. So what is the use of red cell indices in full blood count report? This red cell indices gives you an idea about the red cell morphology, even if you don't see the red cells under the microscope. So you can see the volume and the color of your hemoglobin by assessing these three parameters. Hematocrit. Hematocrit is the measure of a person's blood that consists of red blood cells. So here again you have a wide range of normal range variation, 40 to 52 for males and 36 to 47 in females. So this is the normal blood, this is the normal hematocrit value which contains RBC, Buffy clot and the plasma. In anemic patients, you see there's a reduction in the hematocrit value. If it is high, then this is polycythemia. But do you have to have idea when do you need to investigate a patient with high hematocrit? Males, if hematocrit more than 49, you have to investigate. Females, if it is more than 48, then you have to investigate. We'll move into these cases later on. Red cell distribution width, I know you are familiar with the word. This represents RBC cell size. So in a way, it's a measure of variation of MCV value. It is a Gaussian bell-shaped curve. So normal population is the mid area. Usually there are two parameters, RDW-CV and RDW-SD. But we usually go by RDWCV. So here again I'm emphasizing this is not indicate how much bigger or smaller the actual red blood cells you have, but how big the variation in cell size. As example, you can see in this picture, here the RDW is 12.6, which we take as normal. We call it low anisocytosis, where these cells have normal size red cells in your body. If you have high RDW, like in this picture, we say it's high anisocytosis, so that you have various sizes of cells, medium, large and small cells in your body. So it's very important when you compare RDW with anemia. So I'll go with the common conditions. Just see on the second line, normal RDW and low MCV. That means you have microcytic cells which are normal in size, which the common example is thalassaemic trait. If you have normal red cells with normal RDW, then you are dealing with ACD, anemia due to chronic disease or blood loss. Moving to the high red cells with normal RDW, then you are dealing with a liver disease or aplastic anemia. So on the opposite side, you have very high RDWs. What are the conditions that you can diagnose by seeing this high RDW? See in the mid part, high RDW and low MCV, which is commonly seen in iron deficiency anemia. And high RDW and normal MCV, most possibly you are dealing with a dual pathology or a deficiency state with bleeding. And if you have high RDW and high MCV, large cells, variation of cells you see in untreated B12 folate deficiency and chronic liver cell disease. Okay, I want to talk about platelets. So before talking about platelets, I just have some idea about the composition of blood. So in your blood, you have about 45% of red blood cells when you take one sample, and platelets 1%, and white blood cells 1%. So again, if you go into the ratio of cells, you can see for 600 RBCs, you have one WBC and about 40 platelets. So the point I wanted to highlight, when you compare RBCs with platelet, you have a whole lot of red blood cells in your body than the platelet count. So keeping in that mind, we just go to this slide. So in our machine, platelets and RBC are measured in one chamber, WBC in some other chamber. So how do they recognize platelets and RBC in a machine? So only by the size they identify the RBC and platelets. So smaller the size they identify it as platelets, and larger the size they identify it as RBC. So what will happen if you have large platelets? Like in this picture, some of your platelets will counted in your RBC as RBC. So RBC will not get affected because you have huge amount of RBCs, but your platelets count will drop because of this large platelets. So that is why it's important when you are checking platelet count, always check the mean platelet volume. If you have low platelet count, always check the mean platelet volume. As example, I have given here, if you get a report with platelet count of 110,000, this one zero is extra, 110,000, and your MPV when you check 12.5, then you have to have some idea that your actual platelet count is around 120, 130, above this norm, above the documented value. Okay, we'll move to the cases, case by one. There are a few cases. Case 1, a 52-year-old lady with SOB, exertional dyspnea, comes to the OPD. So you are dealing with, I'm talking about hematology, so most possibly you are dealing with anemia. So when you are suspecting anemia, when a patient comes with anemia, you cannot forget the basic history and examination in relation to hematology part. So in the history, you have to ask about the bleeding. If you see a patient with pallor, upper GI, lower GI, and female's menorrhagia, any icterus or yellow discoloration, past history of blood transfusion, jaundice, surgeries, splenectomy, or gut surgeries. And of course, you have to ask about chronic diseases like CKD, diabetes, arthritis, any native treatments, and family history, past history of blood disorders. And basic investigation that I wanted to highlight is pallor, jaundice, lymph nodes, and liver and spleen. So here's a lady with 52-year-old lady with SOB comes to you with this full blood count report. So what are the abnormalities? WBC 5,500, percentage-wise normal differential, absolute count normal, RBC count low, hemoglobin low, hematocrit low, MCV low, MCH low, MCHC low, and high RDW. When you see the graph, because cells are small and the curve has shifted to lower side. So basically, you have some idea what you are dealing with. You have without seeing the blood picture, you can see here it's microcytic hypochromic anemia with high RDW. So go back to the history and ask about the blood loss, pica, gut surgeries, altered bowel habit, gastritis, and non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs. So this is the investigation you provided with full blood count, and peripheral blood reported as microcytic hypochromic red cells and pencil cells and anisopoikilocytosis. This is the normal red blood cells in your body. This is in this patient. So then you have to confirm your diagnosis. You are sure now you are in one line, iron deficiency anemia, but you have to confirm. Serum ferritin in this lady 10. If it is less than 15, we take it as iron deficiency, but you have to keep in mind coexisting infection, inflammation, or liver disease, because serum ferritin is the acute phase reactant. And serum iron 5 in this lady, if it is less than 30, we take it as iron deficiency. And total iron binding capacity high in this lady, and transferrin saturation less than 16. So you are diagnosed, confirmed as iron deficiency anemia, but you have to find the cause for the iron deficiency anemia in this lady. And there are newer tests and whole lot of tests. Very good tests are available that we don't do in our setup. So in this picture, you can see an advanced iron deficiency anemia. This is the normal population of RBCs you have. The curve is shifted to this side when you see in your full blood count report. When you treat iron deficiency, what will happen? Your RDW will further increase because appearing of new RBCs and polychromatics in your blood picture. So the curve will shift to this side with time. But remember, your RBCs are staying in your blood for 3 months, so this will remain for a long time. Okay, we move to the case number 2. Lady, 43-year-old lady with rheumatoid arthritis on demands for 10 years, no blood loss. On examination, pale, no jaundice, no lymph nodes, liver spleen not palpable, and deformed joints of the hand. So this is the full blood count that is provided. We go by one, and WBC 5,210. And absolute count to neutrophil 2,900, 1,550 lymphocyte, normal absolute count and normal differential count in percentages, RBC low, hemoglobin low, hematocrit low, MCV normal, MCHC normal, and RDW normal. So you are dealing here with normocytic normochromic anemia with normal RDW. So you have a diagnosis with the history. Okay, blood picture reported as normocytic normochromic anemia, but you have to exclude bleeding, the retic count normal, serum iron on the low side, TIBC on the low side, serum ferritin is high. So you have come to a diagnosis, pure and simple, no complications, anemia due to chronic disease. So what is this anemia due to chronic disease? Chronic conditions that causes anemia of inflammation. So the same defined, because inflammation is the cause for this anemia of chronic disease. So example, autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, cancer, any cancer patients, chronic infections, infections like TB, HIV, CKD, inflammatory bowel diseases, and don't forget the chronic diseases that involve inflammations like diabetes and heart failure also can cause anemia due to chronic diseases. Sometimes it's very difficult to differentiate iron deficiency and ACD when you have in combination. Pure iron deficiency easy to diagnose. Pure ACD is easy to diagnose, but when there's combination, you have to be cautious. There are a whole lot of tests, but this slide will show you little easy way to diagnose or differentiate iron deficiency from ACD. So if you have a patient with anemia, check your transferrin saturation. If it is less than 20, you perform serum ferritin. If serum ferritin low, below 30, MCV low, then your diagnosis is confirmed as iron deficiency anemia. Then you go on this line, serum ferritin, if it is more than 100, you have to treat as ACD. In between serum ferritin 30 to 100, you are dealing with combination of ACD plus iron deficiency. But keep in mind, always serum ferritin is acute phase reactant. When you check, patient should not be in acute ill stage. Example, if you do it in a patient with dengue, you will get very high values like 1000, 2000 serum ferritin. So give a gap about 2 to 3 weeks if the patient is ill to perform serum ferritin. Okay, case number 3. A 25-year-old university student on routine medical examination found this full blood count. WBC 9970, which is normal. RBC 6.99, which is very high. Hemoglobin 14.8, that is normal. Hematocrit normal. MCV 62, MCH 21. You can see the minus marks here, very low values. MCHC normal. We go on to platelets normal count. You see here RDWCV is increased here. Normal differential, but prominent monocytes you can see here. There's a plus mark. So you are dealing with high RBC, normal hemoglobin, low MCV, MCH. So when you say this, I don't have a differential diagnosis. My only diagnosis is thalassemia trait. But I have because of this high RDW, I will investigate on iron deficiency pathway. But when you see normal hemoglobin with these indices, you are confirmed that you are dealing with thalassemia trait patient. But if you just see the hemoglobin and you ignore these two things, you are missing a great diagnosis of the patient. So blood picture was reported as microcytic hypochromic blood picture, and there are target cells, partial hemoglobinized cells, and few pencil cells. When you see serum ferritin, it's on the low side, 32. Usually we diagnose the iron deficiency if the serum ferritin below 30, but between 30 to 50, we consider this as low. And TIBC normal, serum iron normal. So diagnosis is thalassemia trait, but you need to exclude iron deficiency. But you have to manage, you have to exclude iron deficiency, but serum ferritin, because it's on the low side, I will treat for 2-3 months thalassemia trait. How do you confirm? By HPLC or hemoglobin electrophoresis. In this patient, it's HbA2 4.5%, HbA 84. In a normal person, HbA2 is less than 3.8 or 4, depending on the machine what you use. So this is confirmatory of thalassemia trait. So in the management, is a young girl, lifelong folic acid and counseling is very important. Okay, case number 4, a 52-year-old lady with fatigue and numbness of feet. On examination, pallor, there's glossitis, no organomegaly, and CNS examination normal. Okay, this is the full blood count provided to you. You can see WBC 12,100, which is on the high side. Neutrophil predominance 8,500, lymphocyte 1,900. So it's there's neutrophil leukocytosis. When you move to the RBC count low, hemoglobin low, hematocrit low, MCV is high 110, 117. MCV high, MCHC, RDW normal. You can see the graph here. This graph has shifted to this side. So basically you are dealing with low HB and high MCV. When you go back to the history, she complains of numbness of feet, fatigue, pallor, and glossitis. So you are in somewhere in your diagnosis. High MCV, there are a whole lot of causes. Go back to the history and ask whether the patient is a vegetarian. Is she having thyroid diseases, males, alcohol, or any liver disease? Symptoms related to multiple myeloma, and you keep in mind the physiological variation, pregnancy and neonates, you have large cells. So you further investigate the patient by blood picture. Blood picture, okay, there are a lot of ovalocytes, teardrop cells, and hypersegmental neutrophils were diagnosed as megaloblastic anemia. She is not a vegetarian, but when you dig into the history, she gives a history of chronic inflammatory bowel disease. So possibly a absorption disorder with megaloblastic anemia. So what are the further tests that you want to perform? You have to confirm the diagnosis by serum B12 levels, which will be low in this, which is low in this lady. Red cell folate normal, LDH high. Sometimes don't forget your LDH can go up to 10,000 even in pure megaloblastic anemias. Serum methylmalonate and homocysteine levels normal. And Schilling test we haven't done in this patient. Schilling test to test the absorption of the vitamin B12. So she was managed with vitamin B12 injections and folic acid. After 3 weeks, if there's no any other abnormality, she should respond to the treatment with normal counts. So this is the initial stage of megaloblastic anemia. Your curve is shifting to this side with the very slight increase in RDW. In advanced stage, your curve is more shifted to this side with high in RDW with macrocytic blood picture. Okay, there are a lot of causes for cobalamin and folate deficiency that you can see in a textbook. So how do you differentiate folic acid and vitamin B12 deficiency? Blood picture, peripheral smears and everything will be normal. But in your history, your neurological signs are more in favor of vitamin B12 deficiency. When you check, vitamin B12 levels will be low in vitamin B12 deficiency. And Schilling test will be abnormal in vitamin B12 if there's absorption problem, and parietal cell antibodies and intrinsic factor antibodies will be positive in B12 deficiency. So this lady, after 3 weeks, you assume that her count should be normal and should be back to normal values. But to see, she came with tiredness and repeat full blood count. Its hemoglobin 8.9, MCV 112, WBC low, platelet 54,000, serum B12 normal. So this patient is having pancytopenia with normal serum B12 level. So you have to see whether there's another cause. There's a good differential diagnosis for this one. You have to exclude myelodysplastic syndrome. You have to perform bone marrow and go on that line.